With artificial intelligence we are summoning the demon. Many things are improbable, only a few are impossible. Being an entrepreneur is like eating glass and staring into the abyss of death. For my part, one will never give up, and I mean never. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams, and I believe in a future where humanity is a multiplanetary species. Innovation is seeing what everyone else has seen and thinking what no one else has thought. If something is important enough, even if the odds are stacked against you, you should still do it. Some people don't like change, but you need to embrace change if the alternative is a disaster. If you're trying to create a company, it's like baking a cake. You have to have all the ingredients in the right proportion. I think we have a duty to maintain the light of consciousness to make sure it continues into the future. I always invest my own money in the companies that I create. I don't believe in the whole thing of just using other people's money. I think most of the important stuff on the internet has been built. There will be continued innovation, for sure, but the great problems of the internet have essentially been solved. Brand is just a perception, and perception will match reality over time. Sometimes it will be ahead, other times it will be behind. But a brand is simply a collective impression some have about a product. The goal of Tesla is to accelerate the advent of sustainable transport, and the solar energy is a complement to that. The reality is gas prices should be much more expensive than they are because we're not incorporating the true damage to the environment and the hidden costs of mining oil and transporting it to the US. I think it's very important to have a feedback loop, where you're constantly thinking about what you've done and how you could be doing it better. It's very important to take risks. I think that research is essentially about taking risks. If you get up in the morning and think the future is going to be better, it is a bright day. Otherwise, it's not. You want to have a future where you're expecting things to be better, not one where you're expecting things to be worse. Failure is an option here. If things are not failing, you are not innovating enough. What I'm trying to do is to maximize the probability of the future being better. If you go back a few hundred years, what we take for granted today would seem like magic, being able to talk to people over long distances, to transmit images, flying, accessing vast amounts of data like an oracle. These are all things that would have been considered magic a few hundred years ago. My motivation for all my companies has been to be involved in something that I thought would have a significant impact on the world. I think there are too many smart people pursuing internet stuff, finance and law. That is part of the reason why we haven't seen as much innovation. If you had to buy a new plane every time you flew somewhere, it would be incredibly expensive. If you get up in the morning and think the future is going to be better, it is a bright day. Otherwise, it's not. I tend to approach things from a physics framework. And physics teaches you to reason from first principles rather than by analogy. There's a real opportunity to have a vertical takeoff and landing electric supersonic jet. You want to have a future where you're expecting things to be better, not one where you're expecting things to be worse. I think it's very important to have a feedback loop, where you're constantly thinking about what you've done and how you could be doing it better.